Welcome everyone to this week's chat about Northern Hemisphere sites. I'm thinking I might change it a little bit in the next coming weeks. I've obviously just got to ask the guests if they're happy with that. I was thinking next week we can chat about Ireland, especially before their first really big game against England. It is against England, eh?
Yes. Yeah. In
Twickenham. And then after that, maybe we speak about the other big two that are in contention for the trophy. And obviously now with this past weekend, maybe we'll speak about Australia, but I think we'll depend on next weekend's game.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not writing the Wallabies off yet. That's what I'll say.
You can't.
What do you guys think of this last weekend's games?
Oh, geez, awesome. It was a crazy weekend. I mean, Bledisloh's the highlight, obviously.
Definitely.
Yeah.
From our perspective, just blown away. You never know when Australia are going to do that, do you?
No, they have a knack in them. They always do. And do you know what it is? It's the same. I have a comparison in my mind with them and France in the Northern Hemisphere, where they can just be horrible and terrible for so many years, but they always know where a try is. And when they focus in on one fixture, they can do it to the best teams in the world. And the Wallabies are exactly that. They all play, especially with that new backline, the way it looks now, they have access to all channels and they can attack really at will. And they were all over them from minute one. They were much better than the All Blacks.
I felt that they relied way too much on Israel Folau in these past seasons.
Yeah.
And their whole attack structure was based around him. And I think it's taken them a few games to actually. I think Beale's starting to really look comfortable at 15. I think he's giving him so much more space. Mm-hmm. And look, for whatever reason, 14 on 15 men, I still think Australia were the better team on the day by a long shot.
100% agree. 100% agree.
I thought James O'Connor at 13 was a revelation. I think he was that guy that was missing in that team. I think he was playing like a really classic sort of Brian O'Driscoll style offloading and creative 13, and it opened up some channels for them. And the balance of him and Karevi is so much nicer and neater than it was with Kurandrani in that role. And
it actually, there was a great shot at one point in the second half of just all the backline in conference. I think it was before a scrum or something, and you could just see like Beale and James O'Connor getting a word in, having a chat with Leila Fano, and obviously Corabetti and Karevi in there as well. And it just looks a great solid balanced attacking unit that can go either tight and be powerful, or get access to the wide channels, which is what James O'Connor has given them. And Beale is free to kind of hover and
probably must be the best 12 at the moment.
He's up there. In terms of form, he's definitely playing some superb stuff.
With ball in hand, I would say, probably.
Yes, that's there's still a question mark about how their defensive structure works, because I actually don't think the All Blacks asked as many questions as you'd expect they would.
No, they didn't.
So that's still an up there kind of question, because it is just a new combination. But for the first time, I'm genuinely excited about a midfield partnership from Australia, which is first time in this whole cycle. It has been quite a while, because like you were saying, it was Beale trying to service Folau from 12 really, and kind of giving Foley a bit of an armchair ride by helping with the distribution for too long. And it really did have a hodgepodge kind of mix to it. And they played different tactics all throughout that era. Sometimes they were kicking it to him. Sometimes they were way deep and wide. And it was all a bit of a mess, whereas they seem to be coming good just in time.
A special shout out to the Aussie locks, Coleman and Rodda, and even Coleman and Rodda was
Rory Arnold started as well.
And
Rory Arnold had a lovely set up Lota's try with a beautiful bit of hands in the wide channel as well.
All three of those locks just took ownership of the game. Now they had a bit of free reign when Barrett went off, but I thought they were brilliant. I mean, after that opening game against the Springboks where they were emasculated, it was a really strong showing, and that was crucial. They dominated most of those collisions in the tight. And that was those lock forwards being brilliant.
And their scrum got on top as well, which is something you're not used to seeing from an Aussie scrum. They were looked much better than a few weeks prior.
Scott Seo and Ala Lato, they don't have a lot of depth there, but those two props can scrum at big time.
For sure. It gives them just set piece security, and we know then once they have like even close to parity on the set piece, they can attack as well as if not better than anyone else in the world. They know where tries are on a rugby pitch. It's an innate quality in Australian rugby that really it does show up in World Cup years as well, because they're not there. Even when they're out of form, they can put together a winning run in a World Cup, or manage to get themselves to a final with just some really good tries. And it's exciting to see what they just tearing the All Blacks apart. And the red card played its part, obviously. like half time, they're down to 14 men, but I thought they were losing that game, even though it was only 16-12 at half time. I thought the Wallabies were all over them the first half. It was probably a bit unlucky that it was only a 4-point margin. And then when they came out after half time, they blew them away, really won. They grabbed the game within the first 8 minutes of the second half and took it away from them.
Yeah, well, I thought that, like, we've seen Australia do something similar to New Zealand in recent years. We've definitely seen them put it up to them. Obviously, they did beat them in 2016 in one of the Bledisloe tests as well. But I think the big difference maker for us anyway, and we've noticed it since probably 2017 Lions tour, that the All Blacks have not been flexing their offensive muscles to the extent that you'd hope. And they just aren't as good as they were at scoring tries when they need them and at finding space when they need them. And they used to have just this innate ability to turn it on when the heat got on and to be able, it's a turnover ball and there's an overlap, that's an All Black try.
Yeah.
And that's not there at the moment. Their attack is pretty weak. Their focus is very narrow and it's on forward play.
Yeah.
They kick more than they used to, and they're not the same attacking force that they were 4 years ago.
Nothing about their centres is settled. Like, the rumour is that Sonny Bill's probably going to start now this week, but again, that'll be a newish combination if it's himself and Goodhue or someone else. It's like they don't really, like, compared to what they brought to the last World Cup, which was Nonu and Smith, and then when Smith was injured with Sonny Bill coming in, like, that's a serious unit in the centre partnership, and now they don't have that. Like, Beauden Barrett was on the bench for that team 4 years ago, coming in as impact, and here he is as the main source of impact. And he did grab a great try to get them somewhat back in that second half, a great line on the inside, and he grabbed that try, but it's not really enough at the moment. Like, they look nowhere near as good or as devastating off things like turnover ball, kick tennis. They're far more willing to engage in back and forth kicking battles rather than kind of punishing loose kicks that you used to see that all the time from All Black sides. They are a much more forward-oriented, very Crusaders-esque outfit at the moment. And but even at that, they're just not scoring a lot of tries. And that this must have been their lowest scoring. I know it's a shorter championship, but they scored so few tries over the course of the whole.
They managed to grab a few last week, but they didn't get a whole lot of tries. And it was the first time I remember them ever being in negative points difference after a tournament.
Yeah, minus 17, I think they finished on for points difference, which is just crazy. Yeah, and only one win. Now, it won't matter at all if they go on and win the World Cup, but
exactly. And
I still think they're as much contenders as anyone else. I just think it's a very wide open World Cup that a lot of teams have a chance to make a go at. And where a few weeks ago I was thinking of only 5 contenders in like New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland, England, Wales, I'm now kind of branching it out to saying maybe France and Australia have a chance of running all the way to the final, as they've done the last 2 times. Like the last time it was the Wallabies, the time before it was France. I never write them off either. And you were making the point during the week that I don't think any of the teams going to this World Cup are as good as the All Black team that won the last one.
Yeah,
I just don't see the quality that was throughout that squad and that team, and the surety. So I think it's wide open, and the Bledisloe test showed that, because the Wallabies came to play and they blew All Blacks away in Perth.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to write off the All Blacks. Never do that.
No, at your peril.
And I'm not going to sing the Wallabies praises until I've seen the second Bledisloe game. I think they're playing at Eden Park. It's a completely different kettle of fish.
For sure.
If Australia win at Eden Park, then I'm sure it'll be like DEFCON 6 in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Something drastic's going to have to happen. But I'm going to leave my opinion for that. Listen, we can't stay on this topic for too long.
I know.
Complained that my title said Wales, and we didn't speak about Wales at all. So
I know. Yeah,
we'll get to Wales.
We need to be getting down to Wales and in all their glory. But you're right. There were other games at the weekend. Sure, the other rugby championship game, South Africa claiming the rugby championship, was awesome. Like, awesome, great performance. I was worried about Argentina maybe clicking and maybe spoiling the party, but they were too good. South Africa were just too good for them.
I think 100 Pollard appeared on the day, and flip! We can't lose him. We definitely can't.
No, you can't.
It's 31 points is a hell of a showing, but I really think from where the Springboks are concerned, I mean, there's not a huge amount of talking points just because they were so superior to Argentina everywhere. But they're adding layers. Like, their set piece is way better than it was. The scrum, Argentina's poor, terrible scrum, was no match. But it's a squad that's built on the defense. I mean, the defensive work from Am and Dale Indy in that center channel is just shutting teams down now week after week after week.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of really impressive sequences when Argentina were on the attack and they were just bludgeoning and getting absolutely nowhere. I thought Am was just in flying form at shutting them down. And even that sequence where Faf de Klerk got his yellow card, and it was constant pressure, and the Springboks eventually got the turnover, and in both cases just went up the other end of the field and scored. And that's awesome. They are the best team right now. I
think they're the form team in the world. Looking at the warm-up games that we were looking at in the Northern Hemisphere the other week, South Africa, there's no doubt in my mind South Africa are the form team right now.
Trust me. If you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, I think we were still hiding from the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, this is it. Like I was making the point that I love seeing a Springbok team that's as fearsome as they are, because it's based on defense and physicality, and they are in the face of everyone they play, and that really is like at the center of all things that we would consider pure Springbok in terms of their style of rugby. They are in the face of anyone there, really shutting them down aggressively, physically, have a really good set piece as well. And it's all just very proper Springbok rugby that I'm looking at, and I'm delighted to see it just in time for the World Cup. Because there was a point, and we have a few videos that can attest to that from a couple of years ago when we were looking at the Springboks going, what is going on? Like, this is nothing like the Springboks. So what is happening? But come the World Cup, it's come good, and I really have them as pretty much favourites for the World Cup. I have them in my head right now. I know it's never been done, the Rugby Championship in the same year as the World Cup, but I think that's only the fact that there haven't actually been that many World Cups. I think it will happen at some point. South Africa look primed to make a run for it.
Yeah, I just want the extra number on our jersey. So
yeah, for sure.
But let's get back to the Wales England game this weekend. Overall, I was expecting a little bit more from Wales.
Totally, yeah.
Tell me about it. Yeah, so are we.
I wasn't expecting as much from England, so I was quite surprised with England, but I was extremely surprised with Wales. It was their first game of the season, so you got to give them a little bit of a break. But it just didn't seem like the Wales side that we're used to. They know that team that can do 30, 40 phases and just constantly hammering and eventually getting over the line.
Especially in defence as well. I mean, they're usually very versatile in what they do, but it's all based on defence. But it was all very soft. It was all very slow. It was all very pre-season. It took a very pre-season feel to it. I think one of the key concerns that is fixable, but it was definitely concerning, was just how off their set piece was. A lot of this could. It was a complete mess, and their scrum had actually, without being spectacular, had held up really well against both Ireland and England, which are two of the best scrummaging sides out there. And boy, did they just not hold up at all this weekend, and that's massively concerning. And then the line-out was completely off sync as well, and coughed up a cheap try to Cowan Dickey, I think,
which will definitely be a very annoying one for Gatland when you just have a 5 meter line out, try to go to your go-to man and overthrow it and mix it all up and just gift a try. There were a lot of soft scores throughout the whole game, and you're right, it was just it felt pre-season-ish, and it went according to script. Like, England notched up a few more tries than Wales did and recorded the win at home. But you're right in saying that of both of the teams, I think England would be happy out with how things went, but Wales. Yeah, there were a few little things to be concerned about. I thought a few of members of their squad, particularly at number 6, Wainwright and then Shingler when he came off the bench, were very slow to react, and offset piece, off the scrum especially. Billy Vunipola just picked and went blind every time, and he had oceans of space out there, and there was no 6 covering across. It was either the 9 or the 8 making
there was a couple of occasions they showed it on the widescreen that Wainwright, I think, and then Shingler subsequently was getting into a scrap in the scrum with his opposite number. The 2 6s were going at it while Billy was running away.
Which is not good.
Those kinds of sloppy plays that really you wouldn't be used to seeing from Wales, for sure. But the caveat that you'd add to that is just that what they have been doing for the last number of weeks now is they've been off in Switzerland. I don't know that they've been holding a rugby ball even. They've been doing intense physical work on their bodies and everything else. And now they're done doing that, and they're getting back into the rugby. There's no prizes handed out in August. This is a process, and they feel like they've done the guts of the physical work that they need to do, and now it's time to
implement some of the ball work. Basically, bring the ball. They've been at altitude, and we were reading some of their schedules. They've been doing loads of weights, loads of kind of cardio. 2 cryo sessions a day was on some of their schedules during the last few weeks, which is all very intense kind of work being done off the pitch. But then, it leads to a little bit of ring rust on the pitch. And like things like their line speed in general was very slow and sluggish. They just looked not quite at the races at all. And then they did get a purple patch in the second half of around 40 to 50 odd minutes that they managed to hold the ball for a little bit and got a couple of tries. And they did go through some good sequences of play, some patches of it in that. Enough to show that it's like it hasn't gone anywhere. And I'm not concerned about the fact that it was Alan Wynne-Jones dropping that thing. I know that Alan Wynne-Jones will be there come World Cup time and be ready to perform.
Exactly.
So it's like it is just week one, and it was away from home, so it's basically just a good hit out for the boys.
And that's one of the things that you have to consider with this Wales team as well, is that they're not the kind of team to flourish in a low intensity game.
Yeah,
they're at their very best when they're making the intensity factor.
Yeah,
dialing it up to a level that other teams can't cope with.
Like kind of roof closed, singing that anthem, making it very loud, very passionate. That's when they really perform above themselves. And it was hard for everyone to get excited about some of these warm up games, the Guinness Summer Series as it's called, but it is just Rugby World Cup warm up games, and they've taken that shape. And
good for the game in our comments. He runs a channel that I talk on Mondays. Very, very good channel. He says, my money's still on the Northern Hemisphere victory in the Rugby World Cup 2019.
Interesting. Yeah,
I don't know if South Africa don't win it.
That's big. I'm saying it's South Africa or the Northern Hemisphere maybe. I don't know. I just think it's very, very open. I'm reluctant to make any calls. I think I can see any number of teams making a run at it and getting momentum on their side and making a really good showing at it. And I'm sure there'll be one or two expected ones who are going to have a disaster. And I'm just hoping that this time it's not Ireland.
I think, look, I was watching, Off the Ball the other day, and they were saying that Ireland's goal should be the final, not the semis.
Yeah, well, that's more of a champion mindset than trying to limp into the semis anyway. And for sure, like a lot of those players, even though they haven't had that success at World Cups, like all the Leinster panel members in the squad are used to going on Champions Cup campaigns that build to a final, and every year they're looking to get silverware, and they're used to having a mentality that expects silverware. So they just it's not that much of a stretch to bring that to a World Cup properly this time with a bit of depth after the last one, and I think this squad are well primed to do that, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I'm worried about Japan though now. I can't talk about Ireland with anywhere near the same clarity as I can talk about any other team, because I just get worried about everyone and how it can go wrong.
Oh, you're worried about Samoa as well.
I'm worried about Samoa as well. Samoa look pretty all right. They might catch its cold. So I'm just fingers crossed everywhere for Ireland's chances.
Now, obviously, there was the big Anscombe injury during the game.
And that's the big takeaway.
That's seriously big. I think you'll be out for even the Six Nations, I think. So that's a really big blow, because I think I don't mind Dan. It's a damn big A.
Yeah.
I think Wales. I mean, listen, to start off by saying it, just Gareth Anscombe. It's one of those just horrible things. He's the loser of the injury roulette that is these World Cup warm up games, and perhaps on reflection, 4 intense games two against England and 2 against Ireland. It's perhaps not wise prep for a World Cup, and Anscombe's the guy to miss out. It's just it demonstrates the small margins that are at play when you're talking about a World Cup squad. I mean, this is a guy they brought in as a project player. They were very excited about him. They put a lot of faith in him. He just came good in World Cup year, locked down the 10 jersey. And now this has happened. I mean, it couldn't be worse. It's terrible news, and obviously wish him all the best. And it's just, there's nothing good to say about it. That said, Wales, I think more than any other Tier 1 team, are reasonably well positioned to cope with that. They actually have quite a bit of depth without having anyone who's outstanding at 10. I mean, we've talked about, if Pollard goes down, if Sexton goes down, if Finn Russell goes down, if Owen Farrell goes down, all those teams are lost. But Wales, Biggar is as experienced as they come. He will change the game they play a little bit. And now we have an exciting scrap for backup 10 between, little Jared Evans, who's a bundle of excitement and will get his chance.
Plays with Anscombe at Cardiff Blues as well, a bit, so he knows that game, but also Patchell.
and Reece Patchell, who has had a horrendous year with injuries and everything else. But if you dial the clock back a year to 2018, he was the exciting thing coming out of Wales rugby, and he was brilliant for the Scarlets and runs a very nice attacking game when he gets going.
And similar to Anscombe, can play 15 as well, so he's a similar kind of footballer to Anscombe. So they have an option of maybe going for him as a straight kind of swap for Anscombe and then keeping Bigger on the bench, because that was serving the fact that they could bring Bigger on at 60 minutes or so was serving them very well in the Six Nations, helped them close out that big win against England. So they still do have like versatile options at 10, even though the loss of Gareth Anscombe is a big one. And it means now, like you were saying during the week, that you think Wales are probably the best placed of any team in the world to lose their starting 10 and still be okay. That was true until they've now lost their starting 10, and now if they lose another 10, they're in big trouble. Yeah, but they do have enough depth there that they can put something together still, and I back them to be honest.
We've got Joe Loynes here in the comments. Are you for real? Wales have 2 10s at test level.
I don't know. Well, Jared Evans doesn't have a lot of experience, but a lot of the criticism that has been leveled Reece Patchell's way, I don't think is fair. He picked up a couple of bad concussions at the start of the season and had a hamstring injury and never quite got back into the fray. But last year, if you watch his form last year, he took it in to the Scarlets. They got to a Pro 14 final. The year prior, they won the Pro 14. They got to a European semi-final. Yeah. He was playing some of the most exciting rugby out there. He was taking the ball flat to the line. He did get beaten up by the English in the Six Nations that year, but then he came back for Wales and played against Argentina and just destroyed the Pumas in a 2-match series out there in 2018, cut them to ribbons. And it was Wales playing more exciting attacking footy than you're likely to see. And I think if you give either of those two guys, Jared Evans and Reece Patchell, a go in the weeks to come, there's every chance that one of them grabs the jersey.
One of them will grab the jersey for sure. Of those two,
they're exciting players.
Different styles though, because I tried quite a few, like Andre Pollard and Elton Yankees. They play completely differently. Mm-hmm. So
I think most like for like change with Anscombe is actually Patchell, because Patchell plays at 15 as well and takes the ball aggressively to the line and likes to pull back deep with another distributor while he's at 10 to be able to pull it back. They get quite flat, but also quite of a deep line, and Patchell can run that.
Patchell's quite Sexton-esque in the way that he tries to run a back line, in that he gives the passes as delayed as possible. Yeah. He likes to suck in as many men as he wants before he can give the ball. Yeah. And Jared Evans is more of your like classic. We don't know him at test level, but from seeing him at Cardiff, he's more of your classic, old school Welsh 10. He's a small guy. He's got a lovely step on him. And we don't know what he's going to look like, but he can bring attacking flair, and the prospect of him in a test jersey is exciting. I'd love to see it over the next few weeks. And it's an exciting challenge that could be figured out.
For sure, yeah. But that being said, it's still terrible to lose Gareth Anscombe this early in the run-in, and we wish him all the best, of course. Yeah. And it is still a blow to Wales, no matter how you look at it. It's not good.
No.
Okay, so now we'll go to the really big questions. Thanks for sending that squad through, so we can obviously go through the squad.
No problem. No worries.
I think we'll do it the same as last week, but I think we'll discuss most, like the props. We'll just discuss the props, and then locks, hooker, back row, obviously the halfbacks, and then the centre pairing, and then the back three. I think we keep it at that kind of.
Yeah, sounds good. So then, where are we starting? Props would make sense.
I think we'll start in the most important players on the field, the props.
Yeah, the props. Yeah, that's not far removed. They're going to need to pick the right ones to keep that scrum up. Like, that was one thing that'll worry them from that England showing, was just how the scrummaging was, how far off the pace they were with what England were bringing.
Well, I was actually quite concerned because I look at the England that was a second string England front row.
It wasn't. It wasn't Wales's first choice either. Now, it was Ken Owens and Thomas Francis, but Rob Evans is their most accomplished scrummaging loosehead. Yeah, and he wasn't in the squad. He is going to come back in, and at the Six Nations they scrummaged very well. They're not like aggressive scrummagers.
They're not really destructive scrummagers, but they're solid.
They scrummage as a top five, as a type 5, and then as an 8, and usually they're able to lock down and scrum even against impressive opponents. It was alarming a little bit to see Thomas Francis going back in there. But they have reasonable depth. Samson Lee is a guy who's fallen out of favour recently, but is very much a competent scrummager. Yeah. And if their scrum is struggling, he's a guy who they can throw in there to lock down the scrum and make sure it's tight. So while last week was definitely not promising, my instinct says, you got a month and a bit to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Maybe if Thomas Francis can't find his scrummaging form back, it involves getting Samson Lee into the tight head jersey and Rob Evans back in at loose head. But my instinct says, even against an impressive Australia scrum with Scotty Seo in flying form, that they will be able to manage it. And when they scrummage as an 8, they can usually gain parity and lock down a scrum pretty effectively.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't have the same problems as Argentina then.
No,
definitely not. I don't think they're comparable at all. In fact, I think their set piece is always deceptively strong. And oftentimes in Six Nations, you get the feeling that maybe someone's like, a lot of times Ireland, we'd be talking about, have a go at them at scrum time. But it's very rare that you get anything off or too much significant off against the Welsh when they're in a significant fixture. They tend to lock down that scrum for the most part. And they have still got quite an expanded squad, so they have actually still got 8 props in there that's yet to be cut by Gatland. I know that Eddie Jones was doing all his cutting and stuff this week, but Gatland still has his squad to rotate. But the 3 kind of loose heads that are probably going, because I think he's probably going to bring 6 props.
That's the feelings that he's going to bring 6 props. There was some talk that Dylan Lewis, the tight head, can cover loose head as well, but I think the way the winds are blowing is that it's going to be 6, 3 loose heads, 3 tight heads. Yeah. And that the 3 loose heads are going to be Rob Evans, Wyn Jones, and Nicky Smith. And the 3 tight heads are going to be Thomas Francis, Samson Lee, and Dylan Lewis. And I think your starter is either Francis or Lee, and that's back up on the bench. And Rob Evans is starting, and then it's a curious one what they do on the bench. I think Nicky Smith is the incumbent, but Wyn Jones could have a thing or two to say, especially after how Nicky Smith scrummaged at the weekend.
Yeah, this is true. It's all pretty competitive and pretty stacked in there. It is curious because I think both Ireland and England are looking to try and do a 5 props with one who's going either side of the scrum, and a lot of squads are trying to be aligned that way. But
South Africa will do something.
South Africa can probably do something with Nyakanye will do something similar. But yeah, Gatland seems to be going for 3 in each position in the front row, so there'll be 3 hookers as well. It's just going to give them good options and give them options of resting players during. I think it
must be about the style of play that they want to play. So there's going to be a lot of attrition on those props. So
yeah, totally. They asked them to do a lot of work. I mean, they make their money tackling around the fringes, and every forward bears responsibility for that. And certainly the Welsh props do their fair bit of work. I think their most dynamic loose prop is Rob Evans as well. He's the guy who can actually get a bit of carrying game going.
Sometimes a bit of offloading game as well. He can be effective at that. He's like they're all very mobile props generally. They don't tend to have the kind of stock, like even Thomas Francis from tight head is one of the more mobile tight heads you'd see. And they do get around, and they do a lot of tackling work, a lot of spoiling work. Like the whole pack in Wales are very good at, if you're the first man into a breakdown, make it messy, make it slow. That's a big part of Gatland's defensive structure, and people like Alan Wynne are the best at it, but their props do a lot of that work as well. It's a bit of the unseen kind of subtle stuff, but it's really effective, and it was the key to their success at the Six Nations just gone. I think they did it successfully to every team they played. Was slow up the ball on them, make it tight and attritional, and then just make their tackles once the ball was, like, they were creating 5-second rucks and 6-second rucks for the opposition, which is very slow, and then chop tackling. Yeah. So they were
trying to get to at least 2 seconds and under.
Yeah,
if you
exactly. Can. And then the Wales mantra is to try and make that as slow as possible. And as such, the props, they are bringing a few of them, all of them mobile, all of them capable of doing that work in the loose. So it'll be about just getting the scrum right, getting the set piece right, and then trusting them to do what they do. And he probably will bring a bit of rotation just because of the attrition.
Okay. So we obviously go across now to number 2s.
We'll touch on the hookers, we kind of covered tight head and loose head there. I think we can mark the props, but the hookers, Ken Owens is their starting hooker, and
that's almost like a given.
He's pretty crucial. He's pretty crucial to what they're doing. It's kind of important that he stays fit. As Shane says, he's one of those guys who's very good in the defensive breakdown. He's very good at spoiling work, but he's generally very dynamic around the field, and he's a ball carrying option who can offload the ball and perhaps sees himself almost in the mold of a Dane Coles. He's played some games at number 8, and he's not obviously on Dane Coles' level, but sort of in that style. He can move, he can pass. he's an attacking option.
He definitely
can open the field up very nicely.
I think it feels like he's got a bit of that mongrel in him. It's
totally. Yeah. He's a key part of that in the Scarlets pack, actually, because you see it for Scarlets, and sometimes in their losing showings they can be a bit soft in the tight, but Ken Owens is never guilty of it. He is the guy who brings them grit and bit of like just bullishness in the tight. He's very game for all these challenges as well. Like you normally see him at his best against England in Wales colours. So I'm hoping to see him out this week and looking a bit better, because he also is a bit off.
His form is crucial too. Like they have a competent backup in Elliot D. Who's just that. I mean, he's not a particularly elite hooker where Ken Owens probably is. But his form needs to be good. His line out throwing needs to be accurate, and his scrummaging needs to be good. His basics need to be there. Because that's certainly a losing picture for Wales, is if his throwing goes by the wayside, they're not going to drop him, and they need their line out. So
it's just I'm not a real big fan of throwing to the back, especially when you're defending at the 5 meter line.
There's probably a collective error. Like you could call it a simple overthrow, but I think there were a few moving parts that went wrong in that instance as well.
Wrong call.
You're
going to throw it to secure your ball, get out.
Get out of there.
It's probably not the kind of thing that they would do in a quarterfinal.
I'd imagine. It's a pretty unusually loose play that you'd see from the line. That's why I was watching that whole game and finding it very hard to read entirely where both of those teams are, because I think they're going to get steadily better, and their games are going to get more intense as the run-in goes on. So they're going to have this game, obviously the return fixture in the Principality or the Millennium Stadium, and then Wales are doing a double header against Ireland. The intensity won't drop off, and it's only going to crank up. And they're hoping that people can get fit and get right, and especially Ken Owens, keep him in good form and ready for the World Cup, but don't get him injured. He's one that I can't see them afford. If he gets injured this side of the World Cup,
it's going to hurt.
Really hurts them. Yeah, really hurts them a lot. So he's crucial.
Do you think they'll play this coming weekend?
Not sure.
I don't know what they're going to do this coming weekend. There's a part of them that's going to want to get the return win against England, but they do need a bit of big picture common sense here, and they've got one bad injury already, and they do have depth in their squad, and guys like Ryan Ellis, who's going to be covering third choice hooker, he's got 7 caps. You never know when you're going to need your third choice hooker. He's probably a guy they're going to need to throw in there. I would, if I were Gatland, I mean, Gatland knows better than I, but if I were him, I would be thinking about mixing up this team and taking guys like Ken Owens out and giving some of the more fringe players a chance to prove themselves, which I think hopefully he'll do.
To be fair, there's a lot of caps spread around in this squad. There's only a few like Centurions. It's really only Alan Wind. A lot of them are hovering around the 20 to 40 cap mark. So he's done a great job in this cycle of bringing people into the squad. And the team has looked very different at any given point. Like they were mighty impressive in 2018 as well, while Ireland were doing very well. But they only lost to Ireland in Dublin by a last-ditch play. They were very close. And they won all the other games they had that year, and that was really with more Scarlets players than this current lineup. They did lose to England that year. That's right. Sorry, but they went on a big run after that, so they've looked quite different, and they have rotated guys in and still managed to keep the same style, looked like Wales in terms of how they're playing. So they're just trying to get everyone up to speed. So there probably will be a little bit of rotation this weekend, and I'd like to see Ken Owens rested and maybe wrapped in cotton wool for a little while. He's crucial. Yeah,
there's no point in especially hurting your players, especially in these. They're basically friendly. Let's be honest.
100%.
There's only one important tournament, and that's
it's a month and a bit away. So you gotta calm down.
Yeah, sure.
I was working it out. I'm not sure who's in Wales's pool, but essentially you're playing 5 tier 1 games.
Wales in particular don't get a lot of breaks. I mean, their group is, in my view, the most fun because it's got 2 of the most competent tier 2 sides outside of Japan, Fiji and Georgia, who are both extremely good for tier 2 sides, dangerous opponents, and completely different from one another. Georgia bringing that dangerous scrum and that forward pack option, and then Fiji bringing the crazy attack. And then you have a rejuvenated Australia as well.
Yeah.
And even Uruguay are good to get a player or 2 off. So there's no weeks off for Wales. It's a tough pool.
For sure. And it's worth remembering or just noting, and I know times have changed, but the last time those 3 sides in Wales, Fiji and Australia were in a group together was 2007, and it was Wales who missed out. Fiji, with probably their best ever World Cup moment, managed to snatch the win on them and go through. So they can't be sleeping on any of the members of this group, because they are very, very tough and different tests each. So they'll want to be right for each week in their group stage for sure.
Yeah, for me, you switch off with Fiji for 5 minutes and they've scored 3 tries.
Exactly.
5 seconds.
They can be gone, and it's something that they won't be trying to do. They'll try and smother Fiji a bit with some of their phase play that they built in this year. I think they were good at retaining possession and good at kind of going through a lot of phases this year, and it was enough to do it for the Six Nations. That's what they're probably going to try to bring against Fiji. But a lot falls on that tight 5 then in that game. So that's what probably explains why they're bringing, like, the front row makes up for 9 of their panel now, because they're bringing 3 hookers and 3 props on either side. So that's 9 of the 31 are the front row. Yeah. That's the front row. So that shows what kind of work
they're going to do. They may bring 5, but that's probably what they're going to do.
We've got some comments here. So Joe Lyons, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. She was saying that the 10-14 did I love the 10-14. It's a pity that they're gone.
They're great, yeah.
And they did a fantastic video on the depth of caps for winning sides, and it's an average of 50 plus.
I remember, I saw that video. They've done some cool stuff on depth charts as well, and how coaches are building their squads and making.
We're trying to get there. I'm trying to convince SuperSport here in this country to start showing they've got to speak to scouts.
It's a good stat. It's definitely worthwhile bearing in mind how many minutes are being given to how many positions. And you sometimes see certain squad, like they did. I do remember the 10-14 doing up a graph that was very like a visual kind of thing for each position for each team. That was very revealing, because you could see where some teams are leaning. Where like a lot of times, like Ireland are spending a lot of time on Sexton number 10, and then over the last little while managed to kind of give a bit more minutes to some other teams. But I think Wales are really well placed even by that metric, because they've chopped and changed their squad a lot over the time, and just Gatland's been there so long. Like, it's not really a 4-year cycle you're talking about with Wales. It's closer to a 12-year one, because he's been there that long. So it's a lot of players have come in and out of that system, and it's built on defense, but they know what they're doing. They're
very settled, and they're very versatile. They know how to go through the motions of getting. They have one of the best defense coaches out there, and Sean Edwards, and they have a great base in terms of they have a great defense. They can usually get themselves to top level in terms of their piece. And then in attack, they have so many different ways of playing the game. I mean, we've seen Wales play the high boot game. We've seen them kick to the corners. We've seen them flash it wide. In 2018, they were loving playing expansive rugby. And then this year, it was a little more controlled. They were taking their 3-pointers, but winning collisions. And they're as versatile a team as they come. And you don't really know what to expect in terms of how they're going to approach a game tactically until it happens, because they're strong everywhere.
They're strong everywhere, and they usually bring something different depending on the opposition they have against them. Like, Gatland's a good man for short-term tactics, and he plans well for a game. And they're, like you're saying, versatile is the key word with this team. They have such a good base in terms of, and such a wealth of knowledge in terms of how long they've been doing it, that they can match up well against any kind of side and be a bit flexible in how they greet that challenge. That sometimes a kicking game's called for, they'll go to that, and they may even switch up selection. Like, some weeks you'll see Dan Bigger start because you want to bring that kicking game. Other weeks you'll pull them out and they'll play more of a running game, and that's why, like, they just seem better placed than most to lose a few players and have a few more slot in, just because their depth and their rotation has been good in this cycle, and Gatland's been good for it.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, should we move across to the locks? Obviously, we know one of them that can't get injured at all.
Well, this is it. It's like you say, just can't get injured, can't be losing Alan Wynne-Jones. He is vital. And to be fair, like, every team in the world has someone like that who's going to be vital to their chances. And with Wales, he is the talisman. He is the man. He is awesome.
He's an exceptional rugby player. Just at everything. He's as intelligent as they come at the breakdown. A wizard at the line-out time. And inspiring.
Even as a captain, his chat with the ref is always on point. It's amazing how often he's in a fracas 1 minute, being kind of incendiary in terms of setting someone else on tilt, but then talking to the ref and calming everything down. He has a great way about him, a great brain for the little kind of battles that constantly happen in the tight. He's very good at making life difficult for opposition packs. Kind of schooled James Ryan this year, which is one of our up and coming locks superstars. He's awesome, but he was definitely a bit shy on experience and wiliness and cunning. which is something that Alan Wynne has in spades.
I have to actually say that it's absolutely one of my favourite locks, James Ryan. Yeah. Absolutely one of my
James
favorites.
Ryan, he's brilliant.
He's awesome, as well. Yeah, no, that's like it was not good scenes from an Irish point of view, but I couldn't deny what I was seeing when Alan Wynne was taking him to school a bit. And to be honest, like James Ryan's awesome, but he's a young man still. It's good for him to have Alan Wynne show him a thing or two, because he can definitely learn from him. And Alan Wynne is the nailed on starter captain. He's going to be involved in all the big fixtures. And behind him, there's quite a depth of people. They've kind of rotated a lot over the last little while. His partner. It's the only thing is, like you're saying, if he goes down injured, I don't know who the heir apparent is or how they're structuring their rows without him.
There isn't an heir apparent.
There isn't.
No, it's just a big hole.
It's just a massive Alan Wynne shaped hole if he goes down. But when he's there, he is the leader. And they've slotted in Beard with Adam Beard with him, Corey Hill as well. Over the course of the last Six Nations, they were kind of in and out. Jake Ball wasn't there as much this.
He was there in 2018.
2018, he was the guy as well. So there's a lot of I'm looking at their caps as well. Like Corey Hill has 24, Jake Ball 32, Adam Beard 13. So they've kind of rotated a fair bit and given minutes to each of these guys alongside Alan Wynne Jones, who's
I think on form, I think they're probably going to go for Adam Beard. It's kind of a toss up between him and Corey Hill right now. Ball could make his way in there, and then obviously Bradley Davis is in the squad as well. He used to be a stalwart, but he's now sort of fallen by the wayside. Yeah. But my instinct says it's going to be Beard. I thought Beard actually looked quite good at the weekend. I think
of all of them, he was quite mobile. He was doing a bit of work. To be fair,
he's got a good pair of hands on him and can be a useful carrying lock, which Alan Wynne Jones doesn't give you as much of. So I think there's just a cleaner balance to it when Beard is there. But perhaps for the more physical tests, they might rotate in one of Ball or Hill. Just if they'll
probably take 4 locks.
Seemingly.
I think so. I think so.
That's probably.
I think everybody's taking 4 locks.
Yeah, you'd be very, very risky to bring only 3 locks in the engine room. It's too attritional the game, and someone's gonna go down, and then you're gonna be a bit tight on it. So I think they're probably gonna bring 4 locks, and it's those 4 we said. It's gonna be Alan Wynne with Beard, Ball, and Corey Hill coming in as well, which means that Bradley Davis. It's not bad at all.
No.
And it means the guy who's missing out is Bradley Davis, who himself has 64 caps and is well used to playing with that team. So they have a fair bit in terms of depth for the partner role with Alan Wynne. They have quite a lot of guys who can slot in.
Aaron Shingler as well. From the back row can play lock as well.
Yeah, so Shingler may go as there was a bit of talk of that of naming Shingler as a row to give them more back rows, but I don't know if they'll go with that.
Especially after Shingler off the bench the weekend looked all over the place.
He did look a bit not sharp and didn't look as physical as he was in the Six Nations either. But that will probably come. But their locks seem to be pretty much tied down as those 4, and all going well. Alan Wynne stays fit and leads them to greatness.
Talk about the loose forwards now, which is one of the areas that I think they're just so strong. They've lost Ellis Jenkins, who could have been a bolter in there for him, and obviously the massive loss is Talupi Faletau, who is in the mold of your attacking, great handling, a lot of pace, ball carrying, offensive weapons of a number 8, which they can't honestly replace. They don't have anybody quite like him, and that's a blow that came in the weeks past.
They had Moriarty playing 8 on the weekend.
Yeah,
Moriarty will be their 8.
He seems to be their 8 now in the absence of Faletau. It's Ross Moriarty, who's a bit more of he's certainly not as dynamic, but he's probably got a little bit heavier, and does carry reasonably well off the base. He offers you similar kind of grunt ball carrying commits jerseys to him.
There's good balance to the incumbent back row that's there. They have Navidi, who can play 7 but is now converted to 6, and then Tipperick, who's an out-and-out open side. So they have 2 very sort of quite slight but quite pacey, aggressive flankers who are very good in the tackle but aren't actually as big and strong as most other test teams are going to be bringing to the flank. So they have Moriarty in there as the heft that offers balance to that back row, and it was functioned magnificently in the Six Nations. Other teams couldn't cope with them. They took Ireland to town, and all 3 of them just made a truckload of tackles in and around those fringes areas. They just didn't let anything by them. Yeah.
So to be fair to Tipperick, of all the people in terms of conditioning at the weekend, Tipperick looked fit and fast, and he was getting up athletically to claim restarts as well as getting stuck into the tackle area. They're going to try and be dogged and fast in those flanks, and it's a good recipe for them because it just means they're making a load of tackles, getting through a load of work, and then trusting the guys in the tight, like we were saying earlier, to make that breakdown messy for anyone that they're playing against.
As far as the background guys to the squad, there's the two guys who didn't look great at the weekend but can make it up. The two guys who played 6. Aaron Shingler, obviously, who can play lock, and that's going to stand him in good stead if that's the way they want to go about it. And then Aaron Wainwright as well, who was on the bench in the Six Nations, had a pretty tidy Six Nations. But both of those guys are a step down, if I'm honest, from where they are in terms of their unit back row. And the other flanker in the squad, James Davies, who it looks is set to miss out, was one of the most exciting back row forwards in Europe a year ago when Scarlets were going really well. He was class. He was an out-and-out open side, a real poacher, but one of the most exciting players to watch.
Very fast as well.
Very fast.
For a 7.
Had a great carry on him, and we haven't seen sight nor sound of him in a Wales jersey this year. I'd love to see him get a go and maybe bolster that squad by finding some form and ousting one of the other guys.
Maybe. It doesn't, at the moment, the winds seem to be blowing that he's going to be the one who's going to miss out, which would be a shame. Shingler was obviously huge for them. He didn't look at himself or that good at the weekend when he was off the bench, but I'd expect him to kind of grow into himself a bit more. They'll probably they may start him this week to get more minutes, in fact, because he's one who did serve them a lot off the bench. When he comes off the bench, he is big and rangy and carries very aggressively into the contact and can shake things up at 60 minutes, which is something that Gatland will be want to do. As far as Aaron Wainwright, I actually think he didn't do himself many favours at the weekend. I thought the fact that he wasn't covering that blind side, he was getting into wrestling matches with his opposite number instead of watching Billy Vunipola peel around the sideline every time where he should have been. That's not going to please Gatland at all.
He'll get another go.
He'll probably get one
more to prove himself. But I'd like to see James Davies get a go as well. And this is the thing with Wales, as in every position, great competition, and it's driving the standard up because there's somebody of that crop of flankers is going to miss out on the World Cup squad. So
as it stands, there are 6 of them in there, and we reckon they probably bring 5. And at the moment, it looks like James Davies is the guy to miss out in terms of the playing. But that can all change. Like, hopefully we'll see Davies get a run out in the weeks to come and maybe do something, or just see someone else try and make a run to grab that jersey. But as it stands, I think, Dara, you were right in saying that it's Navidi and Tipperick on either side of where with Ross Moriarty, and that seems to be their incumbent back row, with probably Shingler off the bench at the moment. That was what they were doing.
Shingler or Wainwright.
Or doing in the Six Nations. But that's what I'm looking at.
Okay. I think we're at the halfbacks now.
Yeah, the little halfbacks. And they are good, to be honest.
There's not much to tell here in the sense that they're very much in the same mold as one another. All 3 of them. They've got Gareth Davies, Alan Davis, and Thomas Williams, and all 3 of them quick off the base, sharp passing, can get a little loose sometimes. Gareth Davis in particular can make something happen from nothing, as he did at the weekend with that great try. But he can also be calamitous, and it's one of the positions where they're less settled and less controlled, perhaps, than they ought to be. But it's also where tries come from.
This is it. Well, like, what their game is about getting on top, obviously. But when they have the ball, they want speed from the base, and those guys are quick. All of them, they're quick little halfbacks. They're very much in that kind of nearly New Zealand type mold, where they're very kind of bouncing around very, very quickly around the breakdown and trying to whip it away or snipe themselves. All 3 of them have a good sniping game in them around the fringes as well. But probably sacrifice a little bit of the control element. Like, they're certainly not in a Conor Murray type mold or something where they're trying to be slow or deliberate. They're trying to be quick off the base.
It has the potential to be an issue for them, just because I've seen all 3 of those players give away tries with sloppy loose plays, and we've seen that happen. We saw it happen, I think, a couple of times with Gareth Davis, where he gave away at least try scoring opportunities at the weekend, despite also scoring a class try. It's a little more Fijian in its approach than the rest of this Wales squad. There's potential for greatness and potential for chaos. But when Gatland gets them on a leash, they can get very quick, capable rugby going, and are seldom used in defence, mostly used as to be.
They normally cover kicks in terms of the defensive structure. They kind of hang back and aren't required to make as many tackles, and that's dead right, because they are in the little halfback mode. They need to be a bit protected on D. But yeah, I think the incumbent is definitely Gareth Davies. He's the one to go to. But as far as the bench option, even if it's Alec Davis or Thomas Williams, it won't really change things too much. It'll come back in and be they're kind of like for like. They're pretty settled and they're pretty like for like changes as well.
Okay.
And they'll probably bring 3, we reckon, at the moment. All 3 of them.
Yeah, that's what I was reading anyway. Okay. Bring 3.
According to Wales Online, anyway, that's the plan is to bring all 3 of them and rotate them and play quite a similar style, even with all 3. But I think Gareth Davis is the incumbent and the number 1 of all of them.
Obviously, now we're going to go to the real big one, first 5 or fly half. I think they had a huge big injury on the weekend. So
of course, worth mentioning it again. Gareth Anscombe, who has been their 10 and has been all year, is out. And that is still just a great shame.
It's a shame for him.
It's a shame for him. It's a shame for Wales. It's gas how fickle the rugby world is, as we said. We sort of covered this position when we were talking about it earlier. It's going to be likely to be Dan Biggar to get the starting jersey. Mm-hmm. I think I like Reece Patchell. I mean, a lot of criticism coming his way for how he finished last season with the Scarlets, but I would at least love to see him get a couple of games at 10 because he has the potential to be very good. He has a little more test experience, and he has the potential to change the game from a Welsh perspective, where Biggar is going to sit back a bit more, be more likely to kick, be more likely to shift offensive responsibility outside him. Reece Patchell is a guy who can take it to the line and cause a defence some problems, and I like that balance.
Yeah, having one of each is definitely a useful thing.
Apparently, this is according to Wales Online as well, so Welshmen will tell you how reputable or not reputable that is, but apparently the wins are that Gatland is only going to bring 2 10s and have Hadley Parks in the centre cover 10, or apparently even Lee Halfpenny can cover 10. So they're likely just to bring Dan Biggar and one of Jared Evans and Reece Patchell. They're not going to bring 3 10s.
That's a big call.
It is. It would be a big call now. Like, obviously, you take that with a pinch of salt because that's not confirmed, but that seems to be, according to that source, anyway, is what they're going to look to do. I'm not sold on the idea of Hadley Parks as a 10. I know, like, he's a bit of he's a big inside centre who runs a very good hard line and well, and more so than centres in that mould. He does try to offload and link up a bit more, but I don't think his pass is good enough or crisp enough off either hand.
He does have a little crossfield kick in him.
He does have a crossfield kick. Like, this is it. He does recognise where the space is and tries to find it, but I really don't rate just some of his technique for doing that at the top level. If he was asked to start a game at 10 in the World Cup, I think that would be trouble for them. Hopefully it won't come to that, of course.
Yeah, well, but touch wood,
of course. But obviously they've lost one now, and that really means that Dan Biggar is the one with 70 caps who you think it's going to fall to, because he's been Gatland's man before. He's been there before. He is a big game player.
To be fair to Dan Biggar, big game player is the word. Yeah. He handles pressure really well, and he's a playmaker.
Yeah,
like, usually it's with the bomb, but he makes things happen. If Wales are stagnant, if something needs to be made, Dan Biggar is very often the guy they turn to just make something from nothing, and usually it's a little more agricultural than your natural running 10s. But he can make magic happen, and he's lethal in the air.
Yes,
he's as good as any.
He's deceptive because he's not that tall, but he wins a lot. He kicks and chases well himself and makes a lot of plays that way. Pulled one off in the last World Cup as well, didn't he?
He
came out of the bench and
chip and chase.
It was against South Africa, if I remember correctly. He managed to pull one out of the fire. It wasn't enough for the game, but it was a good play. So he's one who's been there before. He probably will be getting the nod, depending on how they want to play. This is it. I would say that Patchell at 11 caps and having been involved with Gatland before is probably more likely to make the plane than Jared Evans if they are going to go for just the 2.
I think they're going to, if Gatland has the sense, I think they're going to give both of them a start at 10 and see where the chips fall.
And see
who's better, because it really is like at 11 caps for Patchell, but he's been out all year with injury, and 1 cap for Evans. It's whoever's guess in terms of who's actually in form now.
Whoever takes the jersey,
whoever plays better, and this is it. That's probably what they'll end up doing now that.
I'd put Dan Biggar in cotton wool and leave him for the World Cup.
Well, totally. Especially when you have to answer that question. We know what Dan Biggar's going to bring.
Yeah.
And we also don't have too much concern that he's going to, fall out of form. He's a bit like Johnny Sexton in that regard for Ireland, in terms of you can name him on the day and he will show up and play and do what Dan Biggar does.
For sure.
You can rely on that. You can take it to the bank. So there is no need to give him much game time at all over
against it. Of course,
if
you're going to be playing England once and Ireland twice, that's a risky manoeuvre, and I don't think that he needs to be involved, especially when they need to solve the question as to who's going with him. Now that they've lost what was initially the plan with Gareth Anscombe, that they'll have to have a rethink, and that'll involve Patchell or Evans putting their hand up in the weeks to come.
Yep.
So that's something to look out for in their upcoming fixtures. To be honest, who's that going to be?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move across to the centres. I must admit, I like Jonathan Davies. I thought he played exceptionally well. He reminds me of not perfectly like the on your arm, but it's like a nice linking player, like intelligent, not.
Yeah. Very much a smart guy. I think there's a little bit of speculation on my part that he might just be, as where Am isn't, a little soft on his outside shoulder at 13, in terms of if I was Fiji, say, John McKee, and I was trying to put together a plan to beat Wales, I'd be flooding the channel just on Davis's outside shoulder and looking to get outside him.
Making Radradra be that guy to take him on there.
Because their inside defence is so strong. That getting outside.
That's it. That was what annoyed us so much about their Six Nations campaign, was that no one really asked that question, apart from France once, and Scotland, who flooded that channel at one point and got tries from it straight away. So wide seems to be a better tactic against Wales than narrow, because they're so good in the tight. And to be fair to whatever about that question, it wasn't asked as often. But Davies on his inside, in terms of making reads to get plays down on his inside, he's very good. He can get up very quickly and snuff something out if it's a bit laboured or a bit like just hodgepodge in their face.
If it's attacking the centre channel, Davis will handle it. But unlike Am, whose responsibility is to sort of flood out and make sure nothing gets outside, make sure the winger doesn't get isolated, and she does that job exceptionally. You don't see that as often from Davis. What you do see from Davis is a sensational attacking game.
He's awesome with ball in hand.
One of the best attacking 13s in the world right now, if not the best. He's brilliant.
And Wales at their best are putting him in space all day long and having him just take players on in that little that period of space, piece of space at that 15-yard channel or so in from the touchline. He's so effective going forward.
He's a little modicum of what this Welsh team is, because he's very good at everything and he can be very different from week to week. He's quick. He's deceptively quick. If he gets on your outside shoulder, he's going to take it. He can pass beautifully off both left and right. It's no issue to him. If fixing a 2-1, he can do that in his 2-on-1. He can do that in his sleep. And he's also got a very, very adept offloading game. He can put others into space as well. As intelligent and dangerous an offensive weapon as Wales have, if not their most dangerous.
Probably.
He'll be partnered by Hadley Parkes, who we talked about already on his inside. The cover for that position is sort of interesting in that it was Owen Watkin. Owen Watkin was actually taking the bench position in the Six Nations. Very capable centre, has racked up 13 odd caps, but with speculation being that they're probably going to bring just 3 centres, because George North can cover centre, and Hallam Amos even can cover centre, I believe. So I think they're just going to bring the 3 centres on paper, and that would leave out 57 cap legend who's been a stalwart in the team since 2011, Scott Williams, who is a beautiful player and was beautiful again in 2018 as part of that great Scarlets vintage that have fallen so far out of favour. And
out of form, to be fair. They didn't show the same form this year, so that reflected in the national team.
He's another guy I'd love to see given a go, just because a lot of those guys who were great in 2018 could do with another run out in the Welsh Test jersey, just to see if they can bring that attacking flair. I'd love to see Scott Williams get a game this weekend, maybe partnered with Owen Watkin, and we can see what their backup centres can do. Yeah,
that's it, because it seems fairly set. It is definitely set that it's going to be Hadley Parkes and Jay Davis as their main centre pairing, and ideally going to take them all the way. And behind that, at the moment it seems to be Owen Watkin, which means obviously bad things for Scott Williams, because he is, as you say, just awesome, and we really like watching him play. But someone's got to miss out, and that's to be honest, that's the case throughout their whole squad, is that there are capable deputies and replacements pretty much everywhere. So even things like people going down, they have people to step up in there, and it means it's tough headaches. Like Gatland hasn't made that call yet. He still has a 42-man squad here that he's working with. That's obviously there's going to be people missing out, but they're all really good players who are missing out.
The big factor that wasn't there the last World Cup is just if someone goes down and you have to fill a jersey in the squad. It was very easy when the World Cup was in England. There's a land border between you and the host nation. If somebody goes down in this squad, you got to fly them God knows how many thousands of miles to Japan. So it's a huge. It's like if someone goes down, the replacement isn't really going to be an option for at least another week. So it's the 31 guys are very much your guys. So big decisions to be made all over.
So that's it, and the centre's no different. So
if I look now at the outside backs, I must admit I'm pretty impressed with, because I've always liked Lee Halfpenny. I've always thought he was a great player. But they've actually got a hell of a lot of caps in the back, with Liam Williams, George North. That's a pretty settled bloody outside backs.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely, and settled, and with a few people who are going to be unlucky to miss out as well, same as anywhere else. Like there's a few little bolters in there that you'd think are worthy of a shot. But
it was at the Six Nations. It was Halfpenny who couldn't get a look in terms of the incumbents. Josh Adams, 10 cap left wing, was bolted into the squad last year in the Six Nations and was brilliant.
Awesome.
He was just finding tries from nowhere. He scored a spectacular one against England, a spectacular one against Scotland. He was getting it done, and in a World Cup year how much you value wingers who can find tries. He didn't quite find that form last weekend, but he's very much an exciting player who they're going to stick with. And then George North, ever present, magnificently physical, can find a try from anywhere, has really upped his defensive game and his breakdown game in recent years, and is now very, very rounded.
I agree.
Served well. He played a bit of 13 for a season with Northampton that I think actually did him really good service, because he was togging out a bit more in a defensive role, whereas like we'd seen him a few years prior when he was bursting onto the scene, and as awesome as he was, sometimes he was guilty of leaking a few like little soft kind of contacts in a club jersey. That's nowhere near the North we know now. He is absolutely getting stuck in and making proper hits and proper reads and slotting in part of that. And I actually think Liam Williams, as good as Halfpenny has been and is, I think Liam Williams is the man not to be moved from that 15 jersey. He is fire when he gets it right. He is absolutely irresistible. Like
watch him play at Saracens. He's absolutely he's phenomenal.
Wonderful player. He does have a little bit of grit in him as well. He's quite mean. Like you'll see him throw in a little late shot here and there after the whistle's gone. He's definitely got a bit of a hard edge to him. But he's also like he's up for the physical battle. He'll get stuck in and make the last ditch tackle from 15. I'd back him to make that against most other players.
100%, you back him to make the last ditch tackle. You back him to take the clutch high ball, and he's a silky operator on the ball, very smooth and very capable of finding a gap from nowhere. He scored a magnificent try in one of the Lions tests last year.
Of course.
I'm not sure if he scored it, but he made it.
It was the Sean O'Brien dotted it down actually, but it was a Liam Williams length of the pitch counter attack that was glorious to watch.
Those players.
I have to say, Ben Smith has always been my favourite 15, but I think it was Joe that actually said, because Joe that's been talking in the messages here when I actually said I thought Ben Smith was the best in the world. And she said, well, I'm sure Liam Williams will be unhappy about that. So, but you can have, for me, you can have them in the same conversation. They're both world class.
Definitely both world class.
Liam Williams, he has one or two perhaps more loose plays than certainly the older vintage of Ben Smith from years gone by. But in general, magnificent player. And in his Saracens era, he has become less loose and more solid and more settled. And genuinely holds that 15 jersey, no problem. Behind him, obviously, is Lee Halfpenny. And that leaves, I think, if they're going to be bringing, to fill our 31-man squad, they're going to be bringing 5 outside backs, which would leave one more position outside of Halfpenny, which will be shot out between Jonah Holmes, Owen Lane, who is uncapped, but there's a lot of buzz about him, very big winger again. And then the probable selection, who has 18 caps, Hallam Amos from the Dragons, who's a nice operator on the wing as well. And Steph Evans, who's another of that Scarlets vintage.
That 2018 Wales was all about Steph Evans as well. He was getting in there, wasn't he? And he was lighting it up for Scarlets, but he seems to be behind the pecking order now this year again. But they do have just a wealth of depth. And it is, bar Owen Lane, who's uncapped, there's a lot of caps spread around amongst them as well. So they're all being exposed to the setup. They're all well able to slot in, and it really is a straight shootout. There seems to be a bit of buzz about Owen Lane, even though he's uncapped. He'd probably get a run out this week, is what they're saying.
I'd like to see them try. I'd love to see Steph Evans get another go. Again, all of those Scarlets guys who were so good last year, you don't know what they're going to look like this year. It's worth giving them a try, because they gave Wales a more offensively crisp edge, where they were scoring loads of tries, and they were more loose defensively last year than they were this year. So if they can marry this year's brilliant defence and pragmatic game control with some of the flair that the Scarlets boys brought last year, I think that's probably them at their best. So I think I would love to see Steph Evans given a go to find his form, And obviously, I'd love to see Owen Lane and what he could do at test level.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Steph Evans is he is an out-and-out left winger, which doesn't serve him as well in terms of the 31-man squad element of it, because he doesn't tend to cover fullback or even right wing as often. So that'll go against him. Yeah. So whereas Owen Lane is a big lad that they're probably looking at as potential centre cover as well if all goes wrong. So they're trying to have a somewhat of a utilitarian approach to how they're filling these jerseys out wide. But yeah, at the moment, the front runners seem to be to make the squad: Josh Adams, Hallam Amos, Lee Halfpenny, George North, Liam Williams. That seems to be what the buzz is at the moment. But obviously, that can all change. They will rotate a few of those guys. Yeah,
I think it's seriously good.
I think they're an excellent team. I think they have every chance. They have as good a chance as anybody if they can put it together. Very good offense. Not a lot of weaknesses. That's the key. And for a team that doesn't have a reputation that can to attack, if you give them a 3-on-2, they'll execute it.
Yeah,
they'll find the try. 100%. And they have game breakers like George North and Liam Williams who can make tries happen.
Yeah, and they usually have one or two very clever set plays that are strike plays that put their wingers into space against a lot of teams. They find some good success with that against Ireland and Wales, and England before. They've put their wingers through a hole off phase one as well. They literally can paint many pictures. This team, and they can go against any of the top teams in the world and play a different style on the given day. And I think squad wise as well, as far as depth, bar the few people we highlighted, Alan Wynne Jones, definitely don't want him going down. Wouldn't want them losing another 10. Dan Biggar would be very, very troublesome, traumatic thing. And then probably Ken Owens
and Tipperick.
Actually, those are the four that I would say really should have to stay fit for this team to perform at their
probably
absolute
Jonathan
best.
Davis at 13.
Oh, actually, Jay Davis at 13 as well. So there are a few key men throughout, but there's a lot of depth behind in every position, to be honest. And they're better placed than most to make a run at this year's World Cup. Yeah, definitely expect good things.
Here's the big question: where do you think they'll finish in the World Cup?
It's tough. It's got a lot tough after watching Australia last week.
Yeah.
It's especially tough because you brought up the point that in 2007 Fiji knocked them out, and Fiji are scary because both Fiji and Australia are scary because their defense outside of that French game, and the French did cause them problems, hasn't been presented with the problems that Australia and Fiji are going to present them.
Yeah.
And
these warm-up games the same.
These warm-up games the same. And the last time that they played Georgia was in the Millennium Stadium, and Georgia it wasn't quite their full strength team.
It was a hodgepodge team.
But Georgia were on their line in the last phase going for the win, and the ref gave like a scrum for held up over the line, and that was the only reason that Georgia didn't get the win in Wales. So a lot of these teams have good records against Wales, and relatively speaking, so it's a dangerous pool for them. Yeah. And frankly, in terms of where they're going to finish, I just don't know. I don't know where they're going to finish in the pool.
Yeah, I think if they play to their potential, I think they should be topping that pool, because I think based on this year, or based on the last 4 years, Wales are the strongest team in that pool.
I agree.
But there's just so many variables, and I see potential for upsets all over that pool, and I don't know who are the ones who are going to miss out are going to be.
I just think on current form, I think if Wales and Australia play at their best ability, then I still think Wales would probably come out on top.
Probably,
yeah, I agree,
because their defense is good.
Yeah, I think so. I just don't think Australia have the kind of attack to get through that defense. Yeah, they do. I'm just talking on their best day.
Yeah.
You're talking here in the comments about obviously the humidity is going to be a big issue in Japan.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully the weather. I mean, they're having a massive heat wave right now. Hopefully by the time a month's time cools down a bit. But apparently the humidity is going to be huge.
Yeah, we don't know. There could be, like, they were playing the PNC Cup, the PNC games that were in Japan at the moment. We're having water breaks every 20 minutes on account of that. So that may be the crack in the World Cup as well. We don't know.
It stands against the northern teams. It stands against teams.
As a South African, I'm hotter the better. So
yeah, exactly.
Can we play them at altitude as well?
An altitude, maybe. Yeah, that would be good. Big, high, dry, humid track to have all of our
pasty boys,
pasty white guys flailing about the pitch, looking terrible. No, those conditions definitely don't serve Wales, don't serve Ireland either very well, or England. That, like, ideally less muggy the better. But as far as Wales are concerned, what they're going to try and do is top their group, because if they top their group, they avoid the likely scenario of going against, like, England are probably going to top the other group, we're saying. So that'll leave them playing either France or Argentina, and I'm saying probably more likely France.
Maybe,
but I don't know either. That's tight too. And it just means, like, I think if they slip up and come second in their group and have to play England again for the 4th time in this calendar year, I think that would be a bad thing, and they would knock lumps out of each other, and it would make the semi-final even more difficult for whichever team got through.
I think if Wales and England meet in the quarterfinal, no matter who wins, I think they're very unlikely to win the World Cup, just because that game is going to be the most attritional, physical game you could imagine. And both sides, the winner of that game is going to go down with 6 or 7 injuries. And that's going to be it for them.
Probably, like, I would say likely, because it's happened to many teams. Whenever you have a very attritional quarterfinal and lose a load of players, the semi-final you end up losing it more often than not. So it'll be important for Wales to try and get out of that group strong and on top, because they are a momentum team. This is one thing that you see in Six Nations as well. When they get 1 or 2 wins under their belt, they're very tough to stop. When they get a bit of belief in their game and belief under what Gatlanders are doing, and they get a couple of wins to back that up, they get going like a steamroller, and they are one of those teams, like what I was saying vaguely about the Wallabies and France, are outside chances. But if Wales can get it right and take that group by storm and top it, then I think they have as good a chance as anyone to make it all the way.
Including South Africa. If they top their group, that's the variable. If they top their group, I think they could be good for a final. But if they don't, which is entirely possible because they could slip up in any one of 3 games. Georgia, the least likely, but Fiji and Australia could
catch them.
So I think if they trip up in any one of those 3 games, it will be a disastrous World Cup for them. And if they don't, it could just be brilliant. And the short answer is we don't know. We'll have to watch and see.
So here's the big question: where do you think they'll make the final? Do you think they'll go out in the semis?
I don't think they'll go out in the semis. There's a very small part of me that thinks that Fiji are coming for them. There's a very small part of me that thinks that, just because of the way France got at them in the Six Nations. But I mean, if you ask me to make a call, I'll say, I don't know. I'll say quarterfinal defeat to England.
Ooh, okay.
But so many things could happen. Happen. But I think maybe Australia or Fiji get them. They don't top their group, and then they have to play England and lose that game.
Or the other side, they could top their group, and then England could be the ones to slip up against France, and then they still have to play England. So that could happen either.
It fits our narrative last week when we said England will lose in the semis. It's because Wales will have knocked lumps out of them the week before in a losing effort.
Exactly. So that's the okay. Well, I'll say they'll go one further. I think they might be good for a semi-final this time round.
Okay.
But I don't know if they're going all the way. That being said, I think they could. They're as likely as anyone else in my book, because Grand Slam champions, very versatile team.
Let's be honest. I think it's the first World Cup in like many World Cups where you actually don't really know any one of those teams.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like when you're asking me to make these calls, there's some little games that I have reads on that I think one thing that's going to happen. But for the most part, I'm looking at them going, this team could play like this and win, or play like this and lose. And if there's just so many variables, it's impossible to call.
I think good for the game says you're beaten by Ireland in the last 4.
Ooh, that would be nice.
We don't beat Wales in big games.
We tend, when it comes to World Cup knockout games, we tend to lose to Wales.
We just lose whenever the chips are really on. We lose to Wales. I don't want to see Wales.
I think it's very important for Ireland's chances that we avoid Wales entirely. And they'd be doing us a favour by avoiding us too.
I don't want to look at Wales. If we see Wales,
I think everyone's trying to avoid everyone. So.
That's it.
I'm
still rooting for Italy to make it out of your pool.
Yeah, this is it. If Italy could knock out either yourselves or the All Blacks for us, that would be great. But
came close last time.
They did actually. Stranger things have happened, but I suspect not many. No.
Listen, guys. I think we'll call it death. 1 hour 13 minutes. I think it's a little bit better than last week.
That's definitely better.
Getting slowly better. We'll try and make it to under the 60 next week.
I think you guys are going to go well over the hour next week with Ireland.
With Ireland, actually, maybe.
We'll have to get the whiskies out for that one.
Are you like me? I'm hard on South African players. than I am on anybody else.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
Oh, that's it. Like we've often noted that with our own podcast. Like we tend to have a worse read on what Ireland are doing than anyone else in the world, just because we're not neutral in it at all. We are so invested, and
I'm pretty sure Japan and Scotland are getting out of our group.
Yeah. At the moment, I'm just so nervous that that Scotland do us and then Japan do us, and it's all disaster again. Yeah. So anything above that, I'll be happy. Totally. But I'll be nervous until it happens. To be honest, So yeah, no, we'd be the exact same as you in that sense.
So if guys want to obviously come follow your channel, how would they get follow your channel? I'll put links in the contents below. But if you just give a quick introduction about your channel and stuff.
Thanks very much. We do a long form podcast every week, and we post shorter vids. It's at Overlap Rugby on YouTube or youtube.com/Overlap Rugby podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find us there and take a look at our shorter vids. And if you'd care to subscribe, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we also do Twitter at Overlap Rugby.
We do
just at Overlap Rugby, I think. And then if you want to get in touch with us to do anything else, but like more specific, the email is overlaprugbypodcast@gmail.com as well. So that's us up online. Mainly it's a YouTube format, so that's the best place to find us.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining this week. I think next week with Ireland's going to be a real humdinger. I'm sure we're going to. I think you guys are going to have lots to say before the big game.
Definitely.
I'm sure you're right. We're dreading it already.
I know.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thanks again, Don. We'll see you next week.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
See you. Bye.